And now I feel pure, I'm good.
Feel good.
You know, yeah, and you know what I did? I took that energy, just like you said, I took that energy and I put it into me.
Rapping is a career that many would love to be a part of, but as many have shown over the years, it's one that has its fair share of downfalls. And even if you dodge those, dealing with life after rap can be hard. So join me as I show you a group of rappers who have beaten the odds and turned their lives around for the better. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to King Trending. Number 7. Cardi B. Ironically enough, Cardi B is one of the more known rappers on this list to have to deal with a hard life. By that, I mean that Cardi has never been afraid to show or tell how rough her upbringing was, and it's actually part of what made her a star. Cardi's parents weren't very wealthy, and to that extent, they had to work very hard to make ends meet. This actually had her being raised more by her grandmother than by them. As she made her way through school, she was made fun of quite a lot, and she wanted to get out of this life. But that actually led her down an even darker path of sorts, as the only work she could get at the times was being an exotic dancer. However, this job led her to use social media to talk about her life, and the more vocal and outspoken she became, the better she got at connecting with people. Her social media success alone led her to getting a spot on a reality TV series called Love and Hip Hop New York, and this in turn led to Cardi being a hit rapper, all starting out with her hit song, Bodak Yellow.
I don't dance now, I make money move.
Today, Cardi has had numerous #1 hits, and she's one of the most talked about rappers in the world. And it seems like 2019 is going to be another big year for her. Number 6. Nicki Minaj. I never want to go back to being poor. Nicki Minaj said once in an interview, once you have a taste of that, you will always be driven. I know what that felt like, and I don't want to ever feel it again. So yeah, I mean, my childhood was crazy, but it got me to the point where I had so much faith in whatever I was doing. I just always feel where there's a will, there's a way, and I lived my entire life that way now. These famous words from the queen of rap pretty much speak for how far she's turned her life around. Minaj is one of the biggest acts in music thanks to her over-the-top style and fashion sense, as well as her unapologetic attitude. But despite all of this, she knows where she came from, and it most definitely wasn't from the top. Her father was very poor to the extent that the two could barely make ends meet. She and her father struggled for a long time, but Minaj knew that she wanted more from life than what she had now. Eventually, she met up with a rap legend named Lil Wayne, who gave her a spot on his tour, and after impressing millions with her voice and personality, the queen was born. Sometimes you need the right drive to get you going, and for Minaj, not being poor is a pretty good drive. Number 5. Dr. Dre. It may be hard to look at someone with the prestige and legacy of Dr. Dre and think that he was ever a guy who needed to turn his life around. But let's face it, we all have to start from somewhere. And for the guy who would be known as Dr. Dre, he found music as an outlet for the middling grades and career he was likely to have in his life. Eventually, he turned to rap and became a part of a group called the World Class Wrecking Crew. But it was with NWA that he started to get fame, and that's what he truly needed to make a mark on the industry itself. However, like many rap groups, NWA soon fell off, and Dre left himself after a dispute with some of the group members, and then went off to start his own record label in Aftermath Entertainment. The only problem here was that while his own albums were doing okay, he wasn't making the impact that he wanted. That is, until he signed a kid by the name of Eminem, and this moment is what truly made Aftermath take off. But even that wasn't enough for Dre. He soon went into other businesses and eventually made a headphone line called Beats by Dre. They were stylish, had pretty good sound quality, and had a good backing. But it was when Apple came in to buy out Dr. Dre that he truly earned what was due, because they paid him billions of dollars for the line, making him one of the wealthiest rappers in history. And to think that at one point he didn't know what to do with his life goes to show that anything is possible. Number 4. 50 Cent. Easily the most controversial rapper on the list, 50 Cent is a man who's dealt with hard times and bounced back numerous times, even when the rap game didn't even want him anymore. Curtis Jackson started out life at the bottom. His family was so desperate for money, and Jackson was so desperate to make a buck himself that he would actually go and ditch school in order to deal in illegal substances. Not the best start to life, but it would eventually lead him to the rap game. And after being found by Eminem and Dr. Dre of Aftermath Entertainment, he would go on to make the legendary hit Get Rich or Die Trying, which is still one of the best-selling rap albums ever. Controversy, though, did follow him throughout his career, and eventually 50 Cent stepped out of it to become a businessman, a rather successful one too, to the extent that he not only has a successful business, but he's also a producer and co-star on the hit star series Power. Number 3. Drake. I can hear you now. Wow! When did Drake have to turn his life around? Wasn't he a child prodigy or something? Well, not exactly, but he did have to turn his life around as he struggled in life due to something many on this list can attest to. He was biracial. Racism is a very serious issue, and back in Drake's childhood, it was prevalent all around him, to the extent that his mother actually took out a massive debt in order to get her family to a better part of Toronto, and even then, they lived in a basement for much of that time, and his mother worked to pay off the debt. Being biracial was tougher in the Forest Hills than in the west end of the city, Drake said. But I made friends as I could, I had a tough time, I definitely had a tough time. True, he eventually became a TV star of sorts on the show Degrassi, as the wheelchair-bounded Jimmy Brooks, but we've seen many child stars fall out of the spotlight eventually. But for Drake, he knew his passion was in music, and that led him down a path that would bring him to where he is right now. Drake is one of the most famous rappers/singers in the world, complete with his #1 hits, many awards to his name, and numerous musical records across many platforms. He may have lived in the basement before, but now he's in the penthouse. Number 2, MC Hammer. MC Hammer is a very cautionary tale in the rap world, not because his life ended or that he turned into a dark path or anything like that, but rather he got famous incredibly fast and was destined to be one of the best in the game for a long time. And then he wasn't. His hit, You Can't Touch This, is a song that is still sung to this day, but it's his only #1 hit. And yet, instead of being wise with his money and investments, Hammer went and spent just about all that he had. Not to mention, there were lawsuits and other things that happened to him that just put him in more and more debt. This would have crushed most people, but MC Hammer kept on going. He did keep on doing music for some time, in fact, but eventually he focused on other business ventures, as well as becoming an ordained minister. He even went and formed a gospel rap group that made a song called that actually made it to the #2 slot on the Billboard Top 100 and is now one of the most played songs ever. Hammer is now saying that he's got a better grasp on life and he knows what his priorities are. Hammer is still doing music, but is also a businessman. But his loyalty to his family and his faith are now his biggest goal. Number 1, Eminem. In 2018, Eminem was a name that was on the minds and lips of many people, mainly in the back half of the year, as that's when he dropped his now famous, infamous Kamikaze album for people to hear, and it single-handedly revitalized his career in a big way. But that's one of the many life-changing events that the rapper known as Slim Shady has had over his life. Eminem's real name is Marshall Mathers. He started out as a very poor kid on the streets of Detroit and Missouri. It just depends on where his mother ended up at the time. His father left him and his mother when he was a child, and because of this, he was basically an outcast, one that had to fight to make his way in the world. The first life change he went through is when he found the Detroit underground rap scene. He participated in rap battles against other singers, and then made his very first mixtape that caught the eye of Dr. Dre. Through Dr. Dre's guidance, Eminem became the biggest name in rap by far, claiming numerous #1 albums, #1 songs, tons of Grammys, and even became the best-selling artist between 2000 and 2010. A feat that no single singer can say all too often in terms of decades and beating out all other genres. It may seem like he had it all, but that was actually the start of his serious health and mental problems. The stress and pressure of the rap industry got to Eminem. He started taking unhealthy amounts of medication, not to mention he would gorge himself in order to feel something at times. Eventually, this led to a near overdose in 2008. By his own admission, if he didn't get to the hospital with some help when he did, he might have died. This near-death experience shocked Eminem to the core, and he knew he had to get better. He stopped medicating, drinking, and in 2018, he celebrated 10 years of sobriety, a massive feat for any person. This new lease on life led to Eminem going down a different path of music. He still did rap, but his tones were more inspirational and life-affirming than some of his darker raps from the previous albums that he's made. It wasn't all happy times though, as some people felt that Eminem was betraying himself because he went on this new path, which actually led to some stiflings in his career, to the extent that the album Revival was basically a flop in many aspects. Thus, his final and current life-changing event, of the present time period anyway, came around as he blasted back into the scene with Kamikaze, where he took shots at every single hater he had, as well as firing off at the new age of rap and how we can't understand what they're saying at times, aka mumble rapping. Kamikaze hit #1 on the charts, and many singles were standouts on the track. Eminem may not be the greatest man who ever lived, but he is a man who has turned his life around more times than most and is stronger than ever from every single turn he made. He always does. And there you have it, a group of rappers who made the changes they needed to turn their lives around for the better. So what do you think of this list? Do you know any other rappers that should have been on it? Let me know in the comments down below. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time on King Trending. Hey, just a reminder that we're changing up the giveaways. From now on, we're offering the Galaxy Note 9, the one that comes with the exclusive Fortnite skin, the new iPhone X Max, which we'll pre-order for you, and the new Apple Watch Series 4, which we'll also pre-order for you. The winner gets to decide between these three. Make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, drop a like, and comment the hidden message in the video for a chance to win. You got nothing to lose. Go for it.